What's going on, Muscle Monsters? Alain Gonzalez here, and I'm back on my cut. But I'm doing things a bit differently now, so I kind of wanted to go over my new approach. Now, this is not something that I typically advocate or do. However, when it comes to cutting, there's a million ways to skin a cat, and basically, I'm just skinning it a little bit differently this time. All right, so first things first. I am taking a page out of Greg of Kino Body's book, and I am pushing breakfast back as far as possible, using things like coffee to kind of blunt the hunger and allow me to get through the day pretty easily without having any hunger pains or getting headaches, because typically if I don't eat for a while I'll get headaches, and it's worked well so far. And the reason I'm doing this is simple, is because I found that before what would happen is, because I get up so early, so that means I start eating pretty early on in the day, it gives me a huge eating window. And since I have such a huge eating window, it becomes a little bit hard to stay within my fat intake. And so at night I would be very low on fats, and so the types of meals that I could choose from weren't, it wasn't anything, I didn't have that freedom or flexibility at night. So it became a little bit tough, and I was eating weird things or things that I typically wouldn't want, just to make sure I hit my macros. In this case now, because that feeding window is much less, it's pretty easy to stay within my carbs without having to, kind of be less flexible or just have chicken breast and broccoli for dinner. Now I'm finding it that I can kind of eat all the things that I enjoy without having to worry about going over on my fats in particular, because that was the real pain point. That was the real one that was the killer for me. So that's why now I'm eating breakfast at 1 or 2 p.m. and again minimizing that window in which I can eat. Now I don't have a cutoff time at night, but I go to sleep pretty early, so pretty much can eat again most of the foods that I enjoy without having to worry about staying within my fats. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm doing. Another thing I'm doing is I'm looking at my macros as a limit as opposed to as a goal, with the exception of the protein. The protein I'm always going to hit, and the fats, because they're moderate, I have a little bit of wiggle room, so I'll try to hit at least within 10 grams under or more. Okay, so with the carbs though, what I was finding before was that at night, maybe for example, I would have 100 grams of carbs left. And so because of the way I was training, it was pretty critical that I consumed all those carbs if I didn't want to feel like shit the next day at the gym. Now what I'm doing, however, is giving myself that limit. So if I'm under, by 50 grams or 75 grams, I'm not going to make myself uncomfortable by stuffing my face with carbs just to meet that number. I kind of just leave it where it is. Now I do typically stay within the same range, and I don't typically go too low anyways, so that's been working out for me pretty well. It's been 3 weeks, and each week my average is decreasing. Just to clarify, I have macro goals, however I look at them as a limit. So if I don't hit the carbs, it's perfectly fine. I'm not going to kill myself to hit those numbers anymore, or during this cut. And then another thing that's different is that I'm technically not carb cycling, even though I kind of am, since the carbs vary. But before, what I was doing is I was having high carb days and low carb days, and the reason I did that was so that the high carb days were before my heavy training sessions. Since I trained in the morning, I would be using that for my energy. Now it's kind of the same across the board. Depends on how I feel, what I'm eating that day, and I don't make it a big deal. And this is something I'm able to do because the training style that I'm following now is much different than it was before, so it doesn't make a huge difference. I'm also allowing myself higher carbs because of that fluctuation in carbs, if that makes sense. So maybe where I would be diligently hitting 300 carbs, now I'm set at a maximum of 350. But if I hit 250, it's perfectly fine. So it kind of balances out, and it gives me that freedom not to have to, force feed myself at night some carbs, which I was doing a lot before. So I think that's pretty much it. Those are the main differences. I'm pushing breakfast back as far as possible just to minimize that eating window so that I don't have to worry about having chicken and broccoli for dinner and killing all my fats throughout the day and then not having much at dinner. So now my meals are more enjoyable. Second is that I'm looking at my macros, particularly the carbs, as a limit and not as a goal. So again, I'm not having to force feed myself on the days where my appetite isn't there, and it's still allowing me to eat higher carbs on other days because of the fluctuation. And then lastly, again, I'm not technically carb cycling, and I'm eating more carbs just because on the days where I'm just not as hungry, I'll eat less, and then days where I am hungry, I'll eat more, so it kind of balances out anyway. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's what I'm doing this time around. So far, so good. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, click the like button below. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. If you have some kind of an event you need to get ready or just trying to get shredded pretty quickly without doing anything extreme, download 21-Day Fast Abs completely free. Click the link below, go there, put your name and your email address. You'll get instant access to that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.